Good evening, friends. Today we'll discuss a topic called web client server relationships. So, what do you mean by client and what do you mean by server? So, it will the relationship between them. So, it will be in the form of a response and request to a web browser. So, before knowing the how this happens between a client and server, we'll discuss some points called network. What is meant by network? So, network means the interconnection of nodes. Do you say that the network means only interconnection of nodes? There should be a common channel. So if one person, if you take, let us take the general example, if a person speaks English, then the other person should also speak only in English to understand what the client has sent. So only interconnection of nodes is not network for the not only the condition for the network. So there should be a communication for the network. So to achieve this goal, we use some protocols and standards. And coming to World Wide Web, so what is meant by World Wide Web is a information system. So it may web resources may be document, or image, or file. And so we'll discuss this web browser is a client. How this web client server relation takes place means initially web client initiates a HTTP request. It may be in the form of the example. This is given google.co.in, and this is also called the domain name. Domain name. Why do we use domain name? So domain name is used to identify system in a network. We can instead give IP address instead of domain name, but no one can remember the IP address. So we'll use the universal name called domain name, which is understandable by everyone. So with the help of domain name, we resolve it into an IP address. How a computer machine understands the instructions given by the human and converts into binary language. Similarly, the browser resolves the domain name into an IP address, which will be a unique. So whenever we give a domain name to IP address corresponding to that domain name is resolved. So if you give something called 123.23.11.10, so it will be resolved into some web browser called, say, example google.co.in. And if you give 105.18.20.11, it will be resolved something like yahoo.co.in. So like that, a domain name is resolved into a unique IP address. So this IP address is used to identify a system in a network. So what is me? So we'll get another term called ISP, the Internet Service Provider. Who are Internet Service Providers? Let us take the real life scenarios. So Airtel, Jio, BSNL are such a type of are such examples of Internet Service Providers. We can get internet from IP address. So we have two types of IP addresses. We'll discuss here IPv4 address, which is a 32-bit and will be in the octet form. So if you see the below example, I have written 255.255.255.255. So each will be having 8 bits, so totally 32 bits, and that too in the octet form. So its range will be 0 to 255. If you see the below down, I have written some examples: 255.255.255.0 and 255.255.255.1 and 255.255.252, and so on will be continued up to 255. So maximum connections possible are 255 into 255 into 255 into 255. So on the first three terms, so that is here in the above example, the first three octets, that is 255.255.255, we'll see they are similar. So this is called net ID, and the last one, which is differentiation in the above example, is called a host ID. And to send a request, we connect to a network. So how do we connect to a network means, we'll see the last figure, you will understand. So here, if you see, this is a global internet, which is called GR, and here two routers are present. This is R1 and R2. So if we'll connect a group of systems, our systems are connected to a router, and the router will get the internet from ISP, and this ISP is connected to a global internet. So this IP address given by ISP to the router one is called public IP address, and the IP address given by router to the system is called private IP address. So global routers know IP address of all routers, whereas routers know all IP address of system connected to that network. We can directly connect it to a network, or we can directly connect to a router. If you connect to a router, you will get an private IP address. If you connect to an internet, you will get a public IP address from the internet service provider. So if you want, suppose you are a system two and you want something response from S5. So how the response and request will happen means first the S2 will be act as a source IP address, and it will give the destination IP address. This is S5 IP address. So what first step it will take is it will move from S2 to router 1. This router 1 will check whether the given IP address is it in its range or not. So if it is in its range, means if it is connected to the same network, that is S1 or if the IP address matches, then it will send a request to them and they will give a response. Suppose if it is not in the same network, then R1 will be send its request to ISP and ISP will send the request to GR global router, and this global router know which router can have that IP address, and it will initiate that router, and this router asks whether the given IP address matches with any of the systems in its network. So if it so here in this example it matches with the S5. So S5 will send a request to the router, and router will send a request to global router. Global router will send a request to ISP, and ISP will send to R1, and R1 will send to S2. So in this way, a client-server relationship happens there. So this is a simple client-server relationship. So what is the use of router means? You can connect a multiple devices to this router, but you can say you can get a doubt like router can have a limited port. So to overcome this, a router is connected to a switch, where switch will be having many ports to connect, and the hub is a part of switch which has only small number of ports. So you can connect multiple devices using switch, and switch is connected to router is connected to ISP, and ISP connected to global router. So in this way, we can have a client server relationship there. So thank you.